Hello viewers and welcome to another commentated match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today I'm pleased to present you with the very first game that I've recorded for Sam Mann's Black Crusade online Octagon Warhammer 40k Conquest League. On the bottom of our screen we have slaanesh-devotee playing as our second Space Marine faction warlord Ragnar Blackmane, and up top we have I Fight Dragons, aka Travis McDaniel, instead playing as our latest Astra Militarum faction warlord Broderick Worr. Both of our players are deciding whether or not they want to hold on to their opening hands, and we can clearly see that our initiative token is going to be in Ragnar's possession. It looks as though in assessing our first few planets here, planet number 1 is going to be Taurus, which allows you to trigger that battle ability winning 3 cards or 3 resources should your unit count be lower than that of your opponent. Planet number 2 is going to be Farron, which allows you to rout a target non-warlord. Planet number 3 is going to be Yvarn. Both players put an army unit directly from their hand into play into their HQ. Planet number 4 is going to be Eloith. You look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 to your hand, put the remaining 2 on the bottom of your deck in the order of your choice, and planet number 5 is going to be Barlas, the random card discard planet. Looks as though slaanesh-devotee has decided to accept a mulligan, and we've got some pretty interesting cards here. It's not exactly anything really economy-friendly. There's a grand total of 4 3-cost units, a couple of drop pod assaults, which is ridiculous, a Catachan outpost, and we happen to see 2 of our new, as of Decree of Ruin, Space Marine faction army unit, the Lone Wolf. 3-cost, 1 command, 3/3. You can exhaust it in order to move it to a target planet where the enemy warlord is, and you don't happen to possess any units, so it's good in potentially hunting down Broderick Worr. He himself is a 2/6. He's not really going to be able to, overcome a 3/3 by himself, and with the assistance of drop pod assaults, should Broderick foolishly decide to stay at a planet and fight it out with some of these Space Marines, that could be very deleterious to his health indeed. But our opening deploy action is going to be a copy of the somewhat unpopular White Scars Biker put out to planet number 1 by Slaanesh. It's 3-cost, 2/3 with a command icon, but of course as soon as a warlord is present, it ends up getting a +2 attack value bonus. In assessing Travis's opening hand, he's got this early game economy-friendly versatile unit, the Rattling Deadeye. He put that out to planet number 5, Barlas, that random card discard planet. Keep in mind that Barlas happens to be a green planet, and whereas Ragnar benefits from being commit to the same planet as the enemy warlord, little bit of an assassination focus for him. Each and every other Astra Militarum faction unit you control when you're playing Broderick Worr that you put out at a green strongpoint planet cannot retreat, it cannot be routed, and it gets a +1 attack bonus, which includes this Rattling Deadeye, so it's currently going to be attacking for 2, cannot be routed, happens to affect our planet Farron here, number 2, but of course Space Marines don't have Inquisitorial Fortress or Archon's Terror, but all the same, pretty interesting effect, pretty powerful effect. Cannot retreat or be routed, perfectly works with the Anxious Infantry platoon, and Broderick himself basically disallows enemies or your own units from having any opportunity to retreat because they are instead destroyed. We see a copy of the unique core set AM unit Captain Marcus put out to planet number 4 opposite this copy of Lone Wolf, so 2 command icons conveniently trumps 1, but it's a 2/3, not a 3/3, and you can sack an AM unit you control at his planet in order to exhaust a target non-warlord. So you could sack something like this Engine Seer Augur, and then it could potentially dig through your deck and put a support into play for you. But speaking of supports, we've got a copy of the Catachan Outpost now in Broderick Worr's HQ. Looks as though it's going to be Ragnar's opportunity once again to take a turn. Looks as though Travis may have indicated that he's going to pass. He doesn't have any remaining cards to play. And the same thing can be said for Slaanesh-devotee here, so absolutely nothing left to play with all those resources. Only a mere 2 deploy actions for our Space Marine, but you're kind of stuck after you've already taken your mulligan. And just in regard to upcoming combat tricks, we've of course got a couple copies of Drop Pod Assault for our Space Marine, and we also have a Suppressive Fire and Emperor's Warrant for our AM player. So Suppressive Fire, you tap one of your own units, you also exhaust an enemy non-warlord at the same planet. Pretty powerful effect. The Emperor's Warrant, if you show up to a planet where the enemy warlord is not, you pick and choose an enemy unit to exhaust, and then you deal damage equal to its attack value to another unit. So for instance, we could see Lone Wolf exhausted to deal damage to an Honored Librarian that's otherwise immune to conventional attacks, and in assessing our opening layout of planets, if our Space Marine can manage to win the first 3 planets, that is going to be the game. Otherwise, our players are in for a bit of a long haul here. Curiously, both of them have decided to send their Warlord to planet number 2, and this is looking like it's potentially going to go all the way bad for Broderick Worr, because he's going to take 2 points of damage through Ragnar Blackmane's reaction. Broderick does have the benefit of having this Catachan outpost, so he's potentially going to be able to swing at Ragnar for 4, but provided Ragnar does win at least a little bit of resources, and he is going to be pulling in 1 here at planet number 1, he's going to be able to use a Drop Pod Assault and or this copy of Crushing Blow in order to augment Ragnar being able to potentially bloody Broderick here. So I'll be very curious indeed to see how this ends up working out for Travis. In summation, summarizing our command phase, looks as though Travis came across 4 cards, no resources, relative to the 1 card and 1 resource for Slaanesh-devotee. So it looks as though we can clearly see that Travis's choice of allied faction is going to be Orcs. He's got a Snakebite Thug now in his hand. He's got a couple copies of a 2-shield card, Preemptive Barrage, and even though our Space Marine player is going to quite handily win that first planet, that is Taurus. 3 units relative to 3 units means it's not going to be able to be triggered. We've currently got 3 2-shield value cards in Broderick's hands, so is Broderick going to retreat, or is he going to try to deal out some damage to Ragnar here? Ragnar has the initiative token, so it's going to be his opportunity to retreat. Whichever of these players wins, we could either see Captain Marcus routed, or we could see the Lone Wolf routed. We see a Drop Pod Assault as the opening play. And this is not necessarily something that I agree with. I think under normal circumstance, you'd want to wait to do that Drop Pod Assault until Broderick Worr is exhausted, just so you can ensure that you can deal out some damage to him with not just Ragnar, but also this other unit. Looks as though he did manage to hit with the Drop Pod Assault. That's going to be a copy of the White Scars Biker, potentially dealing out a monumental 4 points of damage out to Broderick Worr. But let's say Ragnar would have dealt 2 points of damage to Broderick Worr, had for some reason Travis not shielded against that damage, and then we'd have seen a Drop Pod Assault. 4 minus 2 still would have been 2. That would have been a bloodied Broderick. So, definitely use this as, in my opinion, a learning opportunity to figure out your, optimal order of operations. Always save your combat tricks for right before you're going to be able to benefit from those. But let's see what Broderick does. This could have just been, an action meant to bully Broderick away from this planet, and Broderick is definitely going to have to try to pile some units here onto Yvonne just to try to block off his opponent's victory condition under any circumstance possible, just because Worr himself isn't particularly proficient at fighting off of, green planets, and Ragnar's already got this relatively well locked down. He could deploy more Space Marine faction units to Farron. This following turn, he could send Ragnar, even though it's a low-value planet, to Yvonne just to deposit this White Scars Biker there. Between the Honored Librarian, this other Drop Pod Assault, with this Lone Wolf potentially being able to relocate, there's going to be a whole hell of a lot that Ragnar can potentially do to try to smash Broderick Worr into pieces here. So as I'm personally gearing up for my very own Black Crusade match, I'm rather conflicted in regard to who I should play, and seeing my old favorite Ragnar here kicking some early game ass, the temptation to return to Fenris is definitely a significant temptation. But looks as though we end up seeing a copy of Suppressive Fire used by Broderick Worr, so a very interesting play indeed. That means he's going to exhaust himself to exhaust the enemy White Scar's Biker. Note, Iridial is not on the board anywhere to be seen, so I suppose he's perhaps doing this to just absolutely minimize the amount of damage that his Warlord takes. By using Suppressive Fire, you're foregoing the opportunity to potentially deal out 2 points of damage to the enemy, potentially 4 thanks to Catachan Outpost. But by opting to do that, you're, potentially going to be taking no points of damage whatsoever. So if Ragnar takes a swing, we could see the Emperor's Warrant or Preemptive Barrage discarded as shields, just to ensure that Broderick Worr can hang around for as long as is possible. And I feel, once again, that's a move that would not have been possible had Broderick Worr either already retreated or decided to run away from the planet. So a very interesting play here. Ragnar actually chooses to retreat from that planet. The White Scar's Biker, of course, cannot retreat from that planet. It would have been destroyed, so I suppose it's going to hang around. And I guess he's perhaps wanting to see if Broderick is going to stay at that planet, but that is just a very curious play. What I imagine I would have done is attacked with Ragnar, then a new combat round would have begun. Broderick would have either had to run away, or he'd have stayed, swung for 4. Ragnar could have taken that blow. Let's see, if the White Scar's Bikers would have taken a swing of, would have taken a hit of 4, Broderick Worr plus the Catachan Outpost, you could have seen the other drop pod assault discarded as shields, then that would have been a potential 6 points of damage dealt out to Broderick Worr, so a little bit of a mystifying play on behalf of our Space Marine player, but we'll definitely have to see how things are going to break down. Looks as though both of our players have decided to stay at that same planet, and despite Ragnar no longer remaining present, he is still going to command initiative. The White Scar's Biker are going to threaten Broderick Worr with a swing of 4 damage. 4 minus 2 is going to be still 2 points of damage dealt out to Broderick Worr, and it looks as though we see a copy of Crushing Blow that's going to put Broderick at 1 hit point remaining. It's definitely a powerful effect, but what if Broderick Worr never ends up taking another hit? That Crushing Blow, which in my opinion is played ever so slightly prematurely, could nevertheless make a big, considerable bit of a difference at some point. So the Catachan Outpost is going to augment Broderick Worr, and it's now going to be his opportunity to take a swing here. He could potentially kill off this White Scar's Biker, or we'll see Drop Pod Assault discarded as shields, so the White Scar's Biker is going to be destroyed, and now there we go. That's going to be the perfect opportunity for the Lone Wolf to exhaust itself, to move itself away from that planet with Captain Marcus, and now it's going to be able to threaten Broderick. Should Broderick decide to stay at this planet, he is basically going to be guaranteedly bloodied. Broderick does retreat, and that's going to be a fantastic opportunity should our Space Marine choose to do so to rout an enemy unit, but if he does, that means it's going to be able to show up potentially at one of these planets. Oh, and that's just such a difficult choice to make. For instance, if you're hoping to win at Yavvarn, if you're the Space Marine faction player, if Broderick shows up at Yavvarn, he'll be depositing Captain Marcus at that planet as opposed to just letting him reel in cards. So it's definitely a difficult choice there for our Space Marine faction player. Do you want your opponent to get those extra cards, or do you want them to have a combat-capable unit with a very powerful effect at that planet? Note, Space Marine units are expensive, and if your opponent can kind of knock yours out by throwing away already exhausted garbage, then that does not work out favorably for you. But HQ phase comes and goes. Travis now possesses our initiative token. He's drawn a couple cards, gotten 4 resources. He's still got 3 2-shield icon cards in hand. He came across across a copy of his Anxious Infantry platoon at Yavvarn to block off his opponent's victory condition. It'll be attacking for a potential 4, so long as Broderick remains hale, and Preemptive Barrage is going to mean that that could occur during the ranged skirmish round. We've also got that copy of Engine Seer Augur. Honored Librarian is going to touch down on planet number 1, which indicates in my mind that Ragnar is going to be showing up to planet number 2 to drop off this White Scars Biker. Planet number 1 is pretty handily locked down, and we could see that Lone Wolf do its relocation effect again at some point. But there we go. That'll be the Anxious Infantry platoon showing up at this planet. I wouldn't be surprised to see Broderick arrive at that planet. He'll be bringing Captain Marcus with him, should he do so, but then we could see Preemptive Barrage mean the Anxious Infantry platoon attacks for 4. Captain Marcus could then throw away the infantry platoon just to exhaust an enemy unit. A lot of different options here, but things are looking pretty grim for Travis just because he is already so wounded. I just wish that Crushing Blow would have been potentially used to catch Travis by surprise, as opposed to, kind of forcing him to play on the back foot, as it were. But we've got a new 5th planet. It is going to be Planum. It allows you to move a non-Warlord unit to the planet of your choice. Both of our players continue using their deploy actions. Looks as though Travis must be feeling pretty confident indeed, just because he keeps on deploying these combat-capable units at non-first planets, so he must just be relying on his ability to potentially win a longish game and to best his opponent here at planet number 2, but to definitely not my surprise, we see Ragnar show up at planet number 2, trying to kill off this Anxious Infantry platoon that's currently a 4-3, but it does not have initiative, and then Travis himself sent his units to planet number 5, which he will be able to win Planum's battle ability and relocate one of his units. But planet number 1, this is going to be relatively interesting. Our Space Marine player is going to be winning this planet uncontested. He'll be able to pick and choose which of these units to route. I don't think it's going to be the copy of the Anxious Infantry platoon, but anything he does route could serve to be relocated by Planum, or, let's say he chooses to route Captain Marcus, then Broderick could relocate the Snakebite Thug to planet number 2, just to try to help block off his opponent's victory condition with 2 units instead of 1. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see Farron route this copy of Anxious Infantry platoon, or otherwise simply just not be activated at all. But let's see what is going to happen. And I guess actually, since the infantry platoon is sitting at a green planet, as is Captain Marcus, they're not allowed to be routed. And another interesting play here, it looks like the Tallarn Raiders are going to be kicked away from that planet, so it looks as though Slaanesh-devotee is, again, trying to deprive his opponent of cards, even though he already has 10 cards in hand, and shields, just to try to, I guess, block off his command, have units show up to combat exhausted. Interestingly, it looks as though we see a copy of Drop Pod Assault played again right at the initial onset of combat. And again, this, the timing of this event seems very curious to me indeed. But it's going to be put into play at our first planet. And what is it going to be? It's going to be a copy of the Bloodclaw pack. So very interesting here. It's after an enemy warlord commits to this planet, you exhaust that unit to put a Space Wolves faction unit into play. And note, there does happen to be a lone wolf in Slaanesh's hand. And if Slaanesh is basically forced, Ragnar is going to show up at planet 1 next round to try to win the game. Broderick Worr, I imagine, will show up at planet number 1 to try to block off the opponent from winning the game, and should that indeed occur, that'll be Primal Howl, generating 3 cards for our Space Marine faction player, and the Lone Wolf will be put into play by the Bloodclaw pack. So interesting how things are working out for this rather unconventional, very steep cost curve Space Marine faction deck. The Bloodclaw pack takes a swing of 1, two. The Anxious Infantry platoon only takes 1 point of damage thanks to this discard of a promotion, and that's going to be the Catachan Outpost not readying. The infantry platoon is going to have a fantastic opportunity to either deal out a big bit of damage to Ragnar, which I think would be a suboptimal play, but perhaps better would be to try to kill off this copy of the White Scars Biker. And in my opinion, I'd probably use the Catachan Outpost to augment the Anxious Infantry platoon to try to kill off the White Scars Biker, just because as a 4/3 unit that is incredibly dangerous. Note, Slaanesh-devotee only has 4 cards in hand. Unbeknownst to Travis, one of them does happen to be a 2 shield value card. Anxious Infantry platoon by itself swings for 4, but I can't really think what else Travis is going to be using the Catachan Outpost for, so it seems like, to me, you might as well just use it, be sure to kill off that White Scars Biker, and then just have a hell of a time during the following round trying to kill off some of what your opponent has. Note, Travis doesn't have a lot of resources, unfortunately. He'll only have 5 going into the following round, so he could do something like a Rattling Deadeye and a Steel Legion Chimera, or he could do, like a Rattling and Engine Seer, and then a Preemptive Barrage, just to try to deal out as much damage to his Space Marine opposition as is possible. But things are looking pretty difficult for Travis here, and I'm just curious how exactly Broderick Worr is going to try to overcome the opposition. I guess he's also got a Rockcrete Bunker, but that's only going to be able to shave off 1 point of damage. I guess something he might be considering is using the Anxious Infantry platoon to take a swing at Ragnar. If he can manage to deal out a bunch of damage, the Emperor's Warrant could make a tremendous bit of a difference if he can force the enemy Warlord away from that planet. But with that 7 HP reservoir, it could definitely be an uphill struggle banishing Ragnar from Yavahn. So clearly, Travis is bogged down in thought, but let me pause for a moment and let's see what he decides to do. All right, so that's going to be the Catachan Outpost. Indeed exhausting. Anxious Infantry platoon is going to be swinging for 6. White Scars Bikers are indeed going to be the target, and I can only imagine that they are going to be outright destroyed because there is no Indomitable to be found in our Space Marine player's hand, much to his chagrin, I'm sure. Definitely overkill. Even if Ragnar would have been holding onto a copy of Frostfang, that would have been insufficient to save the White Scars Biker, and that's going to be 1 less combat unit entering into this critically important, presumably final battle for Ragnar. And again, because he happened to exhaust this Tallarn Raiders, it's going to be showing up at Yavahn, granted exhausted, but it's still going to be a 2/2 here. So Ragnar takes a swing. We see the Emperor's Warrant used as shields to preserve the life of the Anxious Infantry platoon, and this might be a fantastic opportunity for Travis to keep the platoon at this planet. Note, say the Ragnar player is going to have the opportunity to act first during this upcoming combat round, but if Ragnar swings, we could see a Preemptive Barrage used as shields. The Anxious Infantry platoon is going to be able to kill off the Bloodclaw pack and then deal out a monumental amount of damage to Ragnar. So let's see how this is going to break down. Things are definitely looking much more interesting for Travis than I thought they would. And if this pays off, if he manages to block his opponent from winning the game at this planet, he could definitely turn things around and come back and win this one. That is indeed a copy of Preemptive Barrage used to drop the Bloodclaw pack's attack of 2 down to 0. And now the Anxious Infantry platoon, they've still got that attack power of 4. They're going to be able to quite handily kill off this copy of Bloodclaw pack, and then it's just going to be up to them. And Ragnar, definitely, having the ability to draw so many cards has worked out very well for Travis. And this is even with his opponent, trying to keep units off of Eloith here. But the Anxious Infantry platoon takes a swing at that Bloodclaw pack. So much for it being my one and only opportunity to ever see that ability used. It's going to be, grand total swing of 4 as Slaanesh calls out for verification. Interesting fact, I believe Slaanesh-devotee is from New Zealand, And that is going to be the platoon killing off that copy of Bloodclaw Pack. Now it's going to be up to Ragnar to take another swing, but we've still got 2 shield cards, and Ragnar can definitely stick around. Like, I believe he's going to be able to win this battle. For instance, Ragnar takes a swing. That's 1 preemptive barrage down. The infantry platoon takes a swing. Ragnar takes, say, 4 damage or 2 damage or 3 damage. Then Ragnar has the opportunity to swing again. And presuming that happens, we could see the 2nd preemptive barrage discarded. That's going to be another attack of 4 going out to Ragnar. And, you know, maybe we'll see those 2 shield cards used. I guess if we do that, that'll only be 5 points of damage on Ragnar. Then Ragnar will have the opportunity to swing. That will finally kill the anxious infantry platoon, but then Ragnar himself is going to be in a pretty kind of shitty position going into that final battle there. And then Broderick is going to have to show up to Planet 1. Ragnar will show up to Planet 1. Ragnar is going to have the ability to deal 2 points of damage. He could potentially bloody Broderick because Travis is going to be running out of shield cards, so unless he comes into something useful. Okay, looks like we've decided to hang on to those copies of Preemptive Barrage, so definitely we could have seen the Anxious Infantry Platoon remain at that planet for a long-ass time, but it seems as though that's not going to be Travis's modus operandi, so let's see. I can only imagine he's wanting to hold on to that copy of Preemptive Barrage just so that he can ensure that he can do that whole, ranged attacking thing. But the problem with that, the best Broderick is going to be able to do is set up Captain Marcus at the first planet. Captain Marcus can use its ability to sacrifice the Talarn Raiders that'll be showing up at that planet to tap out some opposition. Broderick can maybe retreat during the ranged skirmish round, or he can just stay and fight, deal out damage, which seems just of the paramount importance to do. Captain Marcus himself will be able to attack for 3 because the instant Broderick is bloodied, of course, he's going to flip over to a 2-5, and all of a sudden all those AM units can retreat, they can be routed. All of his anxious infantry platoons, all of a sudden you will have to pay to keep them in play, and as our players see another combat round here, they move into the HQ phase, we've now got Iridial on the board, the healing planet, which is going to be an alluring destination for Broderick, but if he pursues that planet, he'll give up winning at planet number 1, and then our Space Marine faction player, holy hell, if there was anything he could hope to come across, it is going to be another copy of Drop Pod Assault. So we've got another copy of Drop Pod Assault for our Space Marine. If Ragnar shows up at planet number 1, he'll be able to do 2 points of damage to an enemy unit. He'll be able to trigger Primal Howl, hopefully draw a bunch of Indomitables and things like that. And perhaps Ragnar is going to be able to, send Broderick Worr back to Holy Terra, packing, but let's see what all comes out for Travis. He uses 3 of his scarcely few remaining resources to put a Steel Legion Chimera into play. Note, there's not a lot of resources out there to be snagged by Travis, and he uses 2 resources for an Engine Seer Augur, so let's see, the Space Marine player has got 2 command icons at this planet. Fortunately for Travis, he's got 3 command icons, so he'll be able to generate a resource, presuming one of these units are not killed by Ragnar's reaction, which I don't imagine they would be, unless we see Primal Howl draw into crushing blows, and then one of those units dies, because that one resource is going to be an adequate number to fund that preemptive barrage, and then that means things are going to get very interesting indeed. So Travis is going to end up winning command on 3 different planets, but we've got a fair number of different reactions to snag here. So looks like there's maybe a little bit of confusion regarding destination. I guess that temporary disconnect earlier might be okay. Yeah, so I guess I saw the correct number, but our player Slaanesh having disconnected, it bugs the command dial. So I suppose he saw a 5. So I'll just take a moment. Indeed, yes, can confirm. And we see Ragnar use that Primal Howl, so he's going to have the opportunity to draw 3 cards. And very important, again, with order of operations, is if you use Primal Howl prior to Ragnar's ability, if you were to draw 3 copies of Crushing Blow, if any point of damage through his reaction gets through, you'll be able to key each and every one of those Crushing Blows off of that damage there. So, our Space Marine player ended up coming across a copy of Lone Wolf, Blackmane Sentinel, and Promotion, and it looks like Ragnar is going to try to bloody Broderick Worr, but that is going to be ineffective. So Travis has yet to actually accrue his resources, but one of his incredibly valuable copies of Preemptive Barrage is going to be gone. Travis calls out any additional reactions, and I don't believe that there are going to be any for our Space Marine player. Note, Slaanesh only has 1 resource, so that is not going to be a sufficient number to use this Drop Pod Assault, and therefore he did the conservative thing by putting this Blackmane Sentinel into play, but he definitely could have gambled for, say, another copy of Honored Librarian, and what's going to work out incredibly favorably for Travis here is he's going to be able to use Preemptive Barrage, having drawn 3 cards, generated 2 resources, and he's going to be able to use that to have Broderick attack for, say, 2. Like, what he could do, Ragnar has the initiative token, but he could have Marcus attack for 3, he could have the Steel Legion Chimera attack for 3, then he could have Broderick Worr retreat during the ranged skirmish round, or he could have Broderick attack and just, kind of hang out at this planet for a while longer. Looks like Preemptive Barrage is going to be targeting Broderick Worr, whether or not he does retreat. Note that our AM player is kind of run out of shield cards, and it would probably be worth having Broderick retreat just so that these other, 4 AM units maintain that +1 attack value bonus, especially considering the Steel Legion Chimera situated at the planet and the Engine Seer, when it itself is destroyed, it's going to be able to replace itself with something pretty, appealing as well. So it looks like Preemptive Barrage is going to be targeting, okay, so Captain Marcus and the Engine Seer with a modified attack value of 5, thanks to the Catachan Outpost, is going to be directing its attack at Ragnar Blackmane. So, are we going to see any shields? What exactly do we have? We've got Exterminatus, which isn't going to be terribly useful. We've got Drop Pod Assault, and we've also got Promotion. Ragnar himself isn't tremendously valuable, but we see that Drop Pod Assault discarded, so that's only going to be 3 points of damage onto Ragnar. He's got 4 HP remaining, but now Captain Marcus is going to be able to attack for 3. Of course, Captain Marcus is still going to be able to throw away these Tallarn Raiders should he choose to do so, or he could throw away the Engine Seer Augur, which would probably work out even better, because then you could put another support into play, perhaps a Rock Creek Bunker, or Inquisitorial Fortress, or Catachan Outpost, and that could stand to exhaust this Lone Wolf here. But Marcus himself is going to be able to attack for 3. Broderick, I am not sure if he's going to retreat or not. I think a lot of whether or not he retreats is going to be based on if Ragnar ends up bloodied, because then you can kind of tap out an enemy unit, and if you can ensure that all present enemy units are either exhausted or, not able to attack you, then Broderick can just hang out until the end of the combat round. Slaanesh does have 1 resource, so therefore Eager Recruit is something I'm sure Travis is rather afraid of, interfering with this combat math, and if nothing else, that might encourage him to have Broderick Worr retreat. But it is still going to be Travis's opportunity to attack here. So Slaanesh calls out, "Your attack?" ? And now we're waiting on Travis, his ability to do this combat math mentally. So let's see what exactly he considers doing. Okay, so Captain Marcus exhausts. That's going to be an attack of 3 directed toward the Lone Wolf. And do we see a shield card discarded? I can only imagine that we will. We've got a copy of Promotion as well as Exterminatus in the possession of our Space Marine. That's a grand total of 3 attack value, dropped by 1 thanks to the discard of an Exterminatus, and therefore the Lone Wolf itself is only going to end up taking 2 points of damage. Captain Marcus was unsuccessful in managing to kill off this unit, but we're going to see Broderick Worr with the opportunity to attack, and he decides to be a little bit bold. He is staying at that planet. He's going to take the opportunity to direct his own attack toward that Lone Wolf. There's not going to be able to, there's nothing our Space Marine player can do to stave off that blow, so that is going to be a dead Decree of Ruin Space Marine faction unit. Preemptive Barrage is now gone. It basically no longer matters that some of these units have the ranged keyword until the end of the phase. But let's see. Okay, Captain Marcus is indeed going to sacrifice the Engine Seer Augur, so he's going to be exhausting this copy of Blackmane Sentinel, and because that interrupt is going to process immediately prior to this unit leaving play, let's see what exactly he manages to fetch with it. I'm not actually sure if I can look at... Yeah, I guess if I wanted, I could look at all the cards in his deck, but they would probably show as blank because he's not shared his deck with me. But in any case, it's going to be a copy of Rockcrete Bunker being put into play, so, up to 1 time per round, you can exhaust it, it can absorb a point of damage, and let's see, unfortunately for Travis's sake, he doesn't have a 1 shield value event, because Ragnar Blackmane is going to be able to bloody Broderick Worr, and our Astra Militarum faction player is not out of this yet, and, well, actually, I guess I spoke too soon. Because of the Steel Legion Chimera, that means that between that and the Rockcrete Bunker, Broderick Worr is not going to be bloodied, so that worked out very, very favorably for Travis indeed. The Steel Legion Chimera itself is going to take 2 points of damage, but now it's going to have the opportunity to attack for 3. That is going to be the Lone Wolf taking that damage. Will we see promotion discarded as a shield or not? Because otherwise that's going to be a dead unit. That is indeed promotion discarded, but watch as our Space Marine slowly but surely has his units whittled away. Note that Ragnar does indeed have the initiative token, but at some point Ragnar is probably going to be considering retreating from this planet, and I'll be very curious to see how exactly Travis goes about, eventually trying to win this game should he manage to survive this planet. If he can block off his opponent here, all he himself has is, he doesn't have any planet-type icons, but if he wins Yavvarn, he's going to have one of each kind, and then we could see the game end as early as Planum, which is still a ways away, so there's still quite a lot that our Space Marine player might be able to do. Note, the initiative is in Ragnar's possession, so we could see the Honored Librarian guarantee the bloodying of Broderick Worr, or we could see any number of other effects. Of course, like let's say if there was a 2 shield value card in Travis's hand, that plus the Steel Legion Chimera plus the Rockcrete Bunker would mean that Broderick would be, survive that attack, but of course we don't have any shield cards left, let alone a 5th or 6th copy of a 2 shield value card. So that's going to be a bloodied Broderick Worr. Now the Tallarn Raiders are going to take a swing for only 2, as they're now no longer modified, but that is going to be that copy of the Lone Wolf destroyed. Blackmane Sentinel, I imagine, is going to be taking a swing at the Steel Legion Chimera here, but this Rockcrete Bunker is going to ensure that it's able to survive. And now things are getting very, very interesting as this planet gets very, very close to its conclusion. So let's say the Blackmane Sentinel does not manage to kill off the Steel Legion Chimera because of the Rockcrete Bunker. The Chimera itself could kill the Blackmane Sentinel. Marcus will deal a couple points of damage to Ragnar, then Ragnar could kill off the Steel Legion Chimera, then it's going to be the Honored Librarian and Ragnar hanging around, so this is going to be incredibly close indeed. The Blackmane Sentinel does not manage to kill off the Steel Legion Chimera. Just doing some mental mathematics here as it plays out. Let's say Steel Legion kills Blackmane Sentinel. Ragnar kills that. Captain Marcus is going to bring Ragnar to 5 points of damage. New combat round. Honored Librarian could kill Captain Marcus, and then this could bloody Ragnar, and then the Honored Librarian could kill the Tallarn Raiders, unless I'm somehow mistaken, but let's watch that combat play out. Ragnar does manage to kill off that copy of the Steel Legion Chimera. Captain Marcus is going to deal 2 points of damage onto Ragnar Blackmane, and that is going to bring us to the end of the combat round. If our Space Marine player retreats, that would be a tremendous mistake. All of our players are going to ready their units. Ragnar, please stay at that planet if you know what is good for you, because if you give up this, chance at victory now, good luck trying to come back from this one. So let's see him presumably finish the deal here. So I can only imagine both players are staying. That's going to be the Honored Librarian taking the opportunity to kill Captain Marcus. Let's see it. Ragnar exhausts to take a swing, and he retreats. Oh no! Ragnar flees from the planet, and now, well, I guess it doesn't actually matter either way, because check this out. Honored Librarian kills Captain Marcus. The Tallarn Raiders has 0 attack value, so doesn't your commentator feel a bit stupid at this point? But the Honored Librarian is going to hang around, and I guess that was the conservative play, retreating with Ragnar, just because, of course, the Tallarn Raiders now drop to being able to do absolutely nothing. But the Honored Librarian kills that copy of Captain Marcus. The Tallarn Raiders are going to have no opportunity but to attack for 0. Travis has absolutely nothing in his hand that he can do. His Warlord is bloodied, and there we go. Travis calls out the GG, so I screwed up the combat math, but nevertheless, very clever play on behalf of slaanesh-devotee, so congratulations to him for managing to take this one home. Travis McDaniel is one hell of a player, so congratulations to Slaanesh. If only I knew that gentleman's real name, but very well played by both of our players. Thank you to the both of them for allowing me the opportunity to record, spectate, commentate this game, as it was indeed one hell of a match. Once again, this was the very first time I had the opportunity to sit down and record a game for Sam Mann's Black Crusade League. It's currently ongoing. There's something like 100 or so different entrants. I've got my own first league match upcoming. I've yet to decide on which Warlord I'm going to pilot, but if you've made it this far, this was one hell of a game. Thank you for watching, and as always, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you were already subscribed, I always encourage you to share this content, because the more people there are that stumble upon this content, the more individuals end up exposed to Conquest. They may give the game a try, enjoy what they experience, end up buying into it, and once they've joined our community, all together we continue to send an increasingly great message to Fantasy Flight Games, telling them to continue to support this fantastic product. If at any point you'd like to get in touch with me, I would encourage you to do so through Facebook or on Twitter, and if you'd ever like to have your own matches spectated, commentated, and recorded just like this one, be sure to let me know, and I'm always on the lookout for more live-action, traditional, isometric, HD camera perspective gameplay as well. If you ever feel so inclined to help support the Hive Tyrant, I would be honored, flattered, and humbled were you to make a $1 a month donation to my Patreon, as each and every little occurrence, every new patron, all of it just sends this incredible message to really go and show that you guys appreciate this content, that, you like the channel and you like the videos. But I'll just end this by saying, once again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.